Today, we are focusing on another issue that is plaguing West Asia, and that's climate change.
Most of the sea dried up, killing the wildlife and leaving behind thousands of square kilometers of salt-laden desert.
It's normally 1,400 square miles, but drought has shrunken it to just a tenth of what it should be.
The Euphrates River, one of the most legendary rivers in history, is a lifeline for ancient civilizations. But in a strange turn of events, scientists just drained parts of the Euphrates, and what they found left them completely pale. In recent years, the river has been shrinking at an alarming rate, but when experts arrived to study the dry riverbed, they came across something completely unexpected. What did they find? And could this discovery be a warning of something much bigger? Stick around, because what we're about to reveal will leave you speechless. Why the Euphrates River is drying up. Despite being one of the most important rivers in the world, the Euphrates River has been drying up quickly for quite some time now, and this has been happening for many years. But what exactly could be the reason for this river drying up? Well, some of these reasons are natural, while others are caused by people. One of the biggest reasons why the Euphrates River is drying up is climate change. Climate change has caused temperatures in the region to rise, leading to more evaporation of water from the river. When temperatures rise, water evaporates faster, which means that less water is available in the river. Over the past few decades, the Middle East has been experiencing hotter summers and less rainfall, which means that the Euphrates is not being refilled as much as it used to be.
Millions in Syria and Iraq are facing water shortages as the region's longest river, the Euphrates, dries up.
This has been happening gradually, but scientists have noticed that in the last 20 to 30 years, the effects have become more serious. In the early 2000s, reports already showed a decrease in the amount of water flowing through the river, and by 2010, studies confirmed that the Euphrates was losing water at an alarming rate. The situation has continued to get worse in the years that followed, with extreme heat waves in 2015, 2019, and 2021 making the problem even worse. Another major reason why the Euphrates is drying up is the construction of dams. Over the years, many countries have built dams along the Euphrates, blocking the natural flow of water. The most important dams affecting the Euphrates are in Turkey, where the river begins. Turkey has built several large dams, such as the Ataturk Dam, which was completed in 1992. This dam is part of a larger project called the Southeastern Anatolia Project, also known as GAP, which aims to use water from the Euphrates for irrigation and electricity generation. Water mismanagement is another big reason why the Euphrates is drying up. Many countries in the Middle East struggle with managing their water resources properly. In Iraq and Syria, old irrigation systems lose a lot of water because of leaks and inefficient use. Farmers use outdated methods to water their crops, which wastes large amounts of water. Instead of modern drip irrigation, which uses water efficiently, many farmers still flood their fields, causing water to be lost through evaporation. Things don't end there. Another reason why the Euphrates is drying up is deforestation. Trees play a very important role in keeping water levels stable because they help retain moisture in the soil. But large-scale deforestation in the region has made the land drier and less able to hold water. In the past, there were many forests near the Euphrates, but over the last few decades, many of these trees have been cut down to make space for agriculture, roads, and cities. Without enough trees, the land loses its ability to absorb and hold rainwater, which means that less water reaches the river. Droughts have also played a big role in the drying up of the Euphrates. A drought happens when there is not enough rain for a long time, causing rivers and lakes to shrink. The Middle East has experienced several major droughts over the past few decades, with some of the worst ones happening in the 1990s, 2008, 2012, and 2021. These droughts have reduced the amount of water flowing into the Euphrates, making the river weaker each time. One of the worst droughts occurred between 2007 and 2009, when Syria experienced its driest period in decades. During that time, Many farmers lost their crops because they could not get enough water from the river. In Iraq, the droughts of 2018 and 2021 caused serious water shortages, forcing people to leave their homes in search of better living conditions. The more frequent these droughts become, the worse the situation gets for the Euphrates, as the river does not have enough time to recover before another dry period begins.
12 million people in Syria and Iraq are struggling with this, the worst water crisis in years that we have seen.
Another reason why the Euphrates is drying up is population growth. As more people move to cities and towns along the river, the demand for water increases. In the past, when the population was smaller, the Euphrates had enough water to support everyone. But in recent years, cities like Baghdad, Raqqa, and Deir ez-Zor have grown rapidly, leading to more water being taken from the river. The population of Iraq, for example, was around 22 million in 1990, but by 2023, it had grown to over 44 million. This means that twice as many people now depend on the same water supply, putting extra pressure on the Euphrates. As the river continues to shrink, the strain on communities, industries, and agriculture will only grow worse. What happens when a lifeline that has existed for thousands of years begins to disappear? Stay tuned, because what we're about to reveal will blow your mind. Possible events that could take place due to the Euphrates River being drained. As expected, many people are worried about what will happen if the Euphrates completely disappears. This would not only affect the countries around it, but also the entire world. If the Euphrates River is drained, several events could take place, and they would not be small or easy to ignore. One of the first things that would happen if the Euphrates River dries up is that millions of people would lose their water supply. This could happen as early as 2030 if current water levels keep dropping. Farmers who rely on the river to grow food would have no way to irrigate their crops. This would lead to food shortages, hunger, and even famine. In Iraq alone, around 70% of the fresh water comes from the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. If the Euphrates is gone, millions of Iraqis would be left without water. Syria and Turkey would also suffer greatly. Cities that depend on the river, like Raqqa in Syria and Basra in Iraq, could become unlivable. People would be forced to leave their homes and move elsewhere, creating a refugee crisis. By 2040, if the river is completely dry, entire ecosystems would collapse. Fish that live in the river would die, and animals that depend on the water would struggle to survive. Birds that migrate through the region would no longer find water to rest and feed. This would lead to the extinction of several species. The wetlands of Iraq, which have been home to people for thousands of years, would turn into deserts. Scientists predict that the loss of the Euphrates could turn large parts of Iraq and Syria into dust bowls, making it impossible to farm or even live there. Religious and cultural beliefs could also be affected if the Euphrates dries up. Many religious texts mention the Euphrates in connection to the end of times. Some people believe that if the river disappears, it could be a sign of something much bigger. If the Euphrates is completely gone, religious groups around the world might see it as a prophecy coming true. This could lead to fear, panic, and even radical actions by certain groups. That's not all. The loss of the Euphrates could cause an economic disaster. Many industries in Iraq, Syria, and Turkey rely on the river for transportation and trade. If the water is gone, goods would no longer be able to move as easily. Fishermen would lose their jobs, farmers would go bankrupt, and entire communities would collapse. The economies of these countries could shrink, and unemployment would skyrocket. People would struggle to find work, and poverty levels could reach all-time highs. There is still hope, though. If governments take action now, the worst effects of the Euphrates drying up can be avoided. But how exactly can this happen? Keep watching to find out. How the Euphrates River can be saved. One of the best ways to save the Euphrates River would be for countries that share the river must work together. Turkey, Syria, and Iraq must agree on fair ways to share the water. In the past, There have been many disagreements between these countries over how much water each should get. For example, in 1975, Syria and Iraq nearly went to war over the Euphrates when Syria built a dam that reduced Iraq's water supply. These conflicts make it difficult to find solutions, but international agreements could help. The United Nations and other global organizations should step in and encourage countries to cooperate. If fair water sharing agreements are made, it will be possible to ensure that all three countries get enough water without completely draining the river. Another way to save the Euphrates is by improving water management. In many places, water from the river is wasted. Farmers use old irrigation methods that use too much water. Many cities also have leaking pipes that waste large amounts of clean water. If countries invest in modern irrigation systems and repair their water systems, they could use less water while still meeting their needs. For example, Israel has developed advanced drip irrigation systems that use small amounts of water very efficiently. If similar methods were used in Iraq and Syria, farmers could still grow crops without relying on large amounts of river water. Governments should also encourage industries to recycle water instead of dumping waste into the river. Many factories and businesses pollute the Euphrates by releasing chemicals and waste into the water. In some areas, the water is so polluted that it is unsafe to drink. Stronger environmental laws and better waste management could help keep the river clean and reduce the damage caused by pollution. Climate change is also a major threat to the Euphrates. As global temperatures rise, the region is becoming hotter and drier. Studies have shown that the Middle East is warming at twice the global average rate. This means that water shortages will become even worse in the future. To fight this, countries must take action to reduce carbon emissions and protect natural water sources. Planting more trees near the river could help reduce the impact of climate change by keeping the land cooler and preventing soil from drying out. Countries like Iraq have already started on reforestation as a means to ultimately save the river. Some experts have also suggested that countries should build artificial lakes and reservoirs to store water during wet seasons, so that they have enough water during dry periods. Public awareness is also important. Many people do not realize how serious the situation is. If more people understand the crisis, they can push their governments to take action. Schools should teach students about water conservation, and media campaigns should encourage people to save water in their daily lives. Simple actions, such as fixing leaks, using less water for washing, and reducing pollution, can make a difference. If millions of people take small steps, the overall impact can be important. Saving the Euphrates will not be easy, but it is possible. Governments must work together, farmers and industries must use water more wisely, and people must take action to protect the river. If nothing is done, the consequences will be disastrous. Millions of people could lose access to clean water, farmland could turn into deserts, and ancient cultures that have depended on the river for thousands of years could disappear. But with strong cooperation, better water management, and increased awareness, the Euphrates can be saved. The time to act is now.
The Euphrates River is currently at one of the lowest points in recorded history. The water levels have been declining for decades due to some factors we thought it was strong enough to withstand. Climate change, increased water withdrawals for irrigation, and the construction of dams have all played a role in the river's demise. But people seem to be looking toward the direction of divinity as a bigger cause. This is not without a good reason. The Euphrates River has always had divine undertones, starting from its appearance in the Christian, Islamic, and Judaic religions, where it features as one of the 4 rivers that flowed out of the Garden of Eden. Scientists estimate the river to be at least 10,000 years old, but ancient artifacts and the remains of the ancient Homo erectus found in the region suggest that the river is about 450,000 years old, if not above that. The Euphrates River is also one of the most historically significant rivers in the world. Ever heard about ancient Mesopotamia? The Euphrates and the Tigris rivers had formed the cradle of civilization in ancient Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq. It has nurtured the development of early urban societies, such as Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon. It is even rumored to have the beautiful hanging gardens of Babylon. Along the banks of the Euphrates, numerous archaeological sites can be found, preserving the remnants of ancient civilizations. Some notable sites include the ancient city of Mari in Syria, the ziggurat of Ur in Iraq, and the ruins of Babylon. You would wonder what size such a river would be. Well, the river, in its healthy state, is approximately 2,800 kilometers, 1,740 miles long, making it the longest river in Western Asia. Its average discharge is around 810 cubic meters per second, 28,600 cubic feet per second. On the map, the river originates from two branches, the Murat and the Karasu, which meet near the city of Kabab in Turkey. From there, it flows southeastward through Turkey, Syria, and Iraq before joining the Tigris River in southern Iraq, making it an international river that flows through three countries. The Euphrates water resources have been a source of cooperation and tension throughout history for these three countries. The Euphrates is also a crucial water source for irrigation, supporting agriculture in the region. The river's water has been used for thousands of years to cultivate crops such as wheat, barley, cotton, and rice, contributing to the development of ancient and modern civilizations. Syria owes over 85% of its agricultural life to the river, and you could say similar things for Turkey and Iraq. In line with this, and sadly not for the river's good, several major dams have been constructed along the Euphrates, altering its flow and creating reservoirs. The most notable dam, the Ataturk Dam in Turkey, one of the world's largest dams. Other significant dams include Topka Dam in Syria and the Haditha Dam in Iraq. Other than humans, there are other beneficiaries of the waters of the Euphrates River. The Euphrates River and its surrounding wetlands are home to various plant and animal species. It also provides a habitat for numerous migratory birds, fish species such as catfish and carp, and mammals like water buffalo and wild boar. However, while the Euphrates River continues to be a significant geographical, historical, and cultural feature in the region, captivating the imagination of people worldwide, the river has not been without challenges. The river has recently faced various challenges, including water scarcity, pollution, and political conflicts. Droughts, upstream dam constructions, and competing water demands have also led to decreased water flow and degradation of ecosystems in recent years, and might lead to the eventual death of the river. But what do we mean? Let's talk about the drying up of the Euphrates River. This Euphrates River has been drying up for a long time, becoming even more evident since a drought in 2007. In 2013, NASA's Twin Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment satellite collected images of the river and made a shocking discovery. The satellite's data revealed that the Euphrates and Tigris rivers had lost up to 144 cubic meters of water since 2003. This was soon followed by a report in 2021 by the Iraqi Ministry of Water Resources, which projected that the Euphrates River would be completely dry in 2040. It turns out that the Euphrates River may not last until 2040 because, as of today, the river is almost completely dried up, with a large expanse of dry riverbeds as the only evidence of its glorious existence. The recent viewing from the Anna Tower has also made the situation even more disturbing. The Anna Tower is a water measurement tower located in Anna, Iraq. It was built in the 1950s to measure the water levels of the Euphrates River. The tower is 120 feet tall and has a cylindrical base. The drying of the Euphrates River has had a significant impact on the Anna Tower, leaving everyone marveling. In the past, the tower would be surrounded by water up to its base. However, in recent years, the water levels have dropped so low that the tower is now left standing in the dry riverbed, indicating the severity of the drying of the Euphrates River. Grasses can now also be seen growing all around the tower. In addition to the impact on the Anna Tower, the drying of the Euphrates River has other implications. For example, the water levels in Syria have fallen so low that some agricultural areas have been abandoned. The decline in water levels has also led to an increase in dust storms, exacerbating respiratory and other health problems. There is now immense water scarcity in many areas of the Euphrates Basin. This has made it difficult for people to access safe drinking water and harmed agriculture. Increased water pollution has also been a big problem in the Euphrates River. Owing to the rivers drying up, the river is not flowing as quickly, so it cannot flush out pollutants as effectively. The implication of this is an environmental degradation in the Euphrates Basin. This is because the river cannot support the same level of biodiversity as it did when it was flowing at a higher level. This is not all. The river has become unhealthy for residents, as the decreasing waters of the Euphrates River have also led to the sanitation of the river, which means that the water has become too salty for drinking or irrigation. The Euphrates River is also polluted with agricultural runoff, industrial waste, and sewage. This pollution has made the water unsafe to drink or swim in, leading to the proliferation of waterborne diseases. The combination of these factors has made the Euphrates River unhealthy for residents. People living near the river are at risk of developing waterborne diseases and may also have a difficulty accessing safe drinking water. According to a recent report published by the British medical journal BMJ, investigations show how many health emergencies are building up in Iraq as people struggle to get clean water. Diarrhea is a common problem in the region, often caused by drinking contaminated water. Cholera is a serious disease that can be fatal and is also typically caused by drinking contaminated water. Several other waterborne diseases can be caused by drinking contaminated water, including typhoid, dysentery, and hepatitis A. And the residents around the Euphrates River all seem to be at risk of them. In Syria, the devastation seems intense, with health systems in the region going down. Dr. Felipe Barbosa, the team lead for cholera and epidemic diarrhea diseases at the World Health Organization, WHO, as a result of the current state of things, emphasized the lack of health resources by saying, "We have no more vaccines." Sadly, the drying up of the river has not in any way halted the region's population growth. There is a growing population in the region, and as the river dries up, less water is available for drinking, irrigation, and industrial use. This leads to water scarcity in the region, making it difficult for people to meet their basic needs. In the end, the demise of the Euphrates River would leave over 150 million people stranded. People already have to travel long distances to find water, and the water they find is often unsafe to drink. Residents struggle to migrate to other locations in search of water, leaving the life that had taken them so many years to build. But these are not the only problems that come with the drying up of the Euphrates River. So what next? Let's talk about fierce conflicts that now surround the drying up of the Euphrates River. It is important to note that the Euphrates River is a highly significant water source to its three resident nations, as it flows through Turkey, Syria, and Iraq before joining the Tigris River and ultimately emptying into the Persian Gulf. The river flowing through these countries makes water crucial for their agriculture, hydroelectric power, and other livelihoods of the people in these countries. However, this common possession between these three countries is also a bone of contention. In all this, Turkey seems to always have the upper hand, mainly because the river originates from its region. This enables it to carry out actions regarding the river that affects everyone else. So far, the actions in Turkey towards managing its water resources have been very detrimental. Turkey has recently been constructing several dams and hydroelectric power plants along the Euphrates River. These projects, such as the Ataturk Dam, Karkamış Dam, and the Alisu Dam, aim to generate electricity and manage water resources within Turkey. However, these infrastructure projects have raised concerns among downstream countries like Syria and Iraq, as what they fear seems to be happening before their eyes. Both Syria and Iraq now experience reduced water flows, which have negative impacts on their agriculture and ecosystems. But the country that has suffered the most is Iraq. Iraq happens to be the downstream country at the lowest point. This means water must flow from Turkey into Syria before finally getting to Iraq. As a result, Turkey's dam constructions and water diversion had long started causing a severe drought in Iraq. Yet Turkey doesn't seem to be done with its water management projects. Syria and Iraq, being downstream countries, rely heavily on the Euphrates River for irrigation and water supply. They had voiced their concerns over decreased water levels, which can harm agricultural productivity and exacerbate water scarcity issues, affecting hydroelectric power generation and causing ecological imbalances. In the past, disagreements and tensions have arisen between Turkey and the downstream countries due to the management of the Euphrates River. These conflicts have been primarily diplomatic and involve negotiations and agreements to ensure a fair distribution of water resources. The governments of Turkey, Syria, and Iraq have engaged in talk and sought to establish frameworks for cooperation, but challenges and disputes remain being fueled by other issues such as broader conflicts and geopolitical dynamics, including the Syrian civil war and the fight against ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. These factors have further complicated the situation and impacted the interactions between the countries regarding the Euphrates River. In 1989, Syria and Iraq entered into the treaty that eased the tension a bit and helped alleviate the suffering of Iraq by agreeing to allow 60% of the water flowing in from Turkey to go to Iraq. Due to this agreement, there had been peace for about 20 years, but this peace was eventually interrupted when Turkey launched its Southeastern Anatolia project, known as GAP. This is a large-scale development project in Turkey, initiated by the Turkish government to promote economic and social development in the southeastern region of Anatolia, which historically has faced challenges in terms of economic development and infrastructure. The primary objectives of the GAP project are to harness the potential of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which flow through the region for irrigation and hydroelectric power generation, and to develop various sectors of the local economy. The project aims to increase agricultural productivity, generate electricity, improve water management, create employment opportunities, and enhance living standards in the region. The project led to the construction of 22 dams and 19 hydroelectric plants alongside irrigation systems and associated infrastructure. The dams built along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers provide water for irrigation, facilitating agricultural activities and enabling the cultivation of crops such as cotton, wheat, and vegetables. Additionally, hydroelectric power plants generate significant electricity for the region. The GAP project also incorporates social and economic development initiatives, such as education, healthcare, transportation, and tourism. The aim is to improve the overall quality of life for the people living in the region and create opportunities for sustainable growth and development. Over the years, the GAP project has had a profound impact on the southeastern region of Turkey. But both Syria and Iraq were left to suffer the consequences of the initiative. Still, the worst one is yet to come. The real chaos started when the Euphrates River started disappearing rapidly, creating even more tension between the resident nations as the conflict between these nations might enter into another dimension. After all, no one wants to be disadvantaged. In all this, climate change continues to do its part. The region's temperature is said to have increased by 1 degree Celsius in the past 100 years, and average rainfall in Syria has dropped by 18 millimeters per month per century. The drying up of the Euphrates River is currently significantly impacting Iraq and Syria. In Iraq, water levels in the river have dropped by as much as 50% in recent years. In Syria, the drying up of the Euphrates River has exacerbated the country's water crisis. The Syrian government has been forced to ration water, and many people have been displaced from their homes due to water shortages. It would not be so surprising if the drying up of the Euphrates River led to conflict over water resources between Iraq and Syria, as both countries are already competing for access to the river's water. If the river continues to dry up, this competition could become more intense and lead to violence. But what about the effects of the disappearing waters of the Euphrates on farmers? The effect of the drought on agriculture is another pitiful sight. In a dissection of who suffers the most among citizens, you would find the farmers in a very painful dilemma. Some are already out of jobs as there is no more water to irrigate their crop fields. Of course, sustainable domestic life would always be prioritized over farmers, so this is where the grunt becomes highly felt. So far, the drying up of the Euphrates River is devastatingly impacting agriculture in the region. The river is a major source of irrigation water for farmers. Its drying up is not only enhancing water shortages, still, it is also leading to a loss of fertility of the soil, as well as a loss in agricultural productivity. This is how the soil becomes infertile. Do you recall that we had said that dropping the river levels of the Euphrates River causes the salt content of the soil to increase? There you have it. This makes the soil less fertile and more difficult to grow crops in. The loss of fertility inspired by the drying Euphrates River has led to reduced crop yields in the region. In Syria, the grain harvest has dropped awfully by an intimidating 75%. This is overall hurting the food security of the region. As many farmers in the region rely on the Euphrates River for their livelihoods, the drying up of the river has led to food shortages and insecurity and a significant loss of jobs and livelihoods for these farmers. The overall consequences of this are not encouraging, as the loss of jobs and livelihoods of these farmers leads to increased poverty in the region. The combination of food insecurity and poverty increases the region's social unrest risk. Farmers not entirely out of their jobs must adapt their agricultural processes to cope with water scarcity. This involves water-saving techniques such as drip irrigation, adopting drought-resistant crop varieties, or shifting towards less water-intense crops. Agriculture is a critical sector in the region's economy, and a decline in agricultural productivity would have ripple effects. While farmers face financial difficulties, local economies that rely heavily on agriculture will also suffer due to reduced incomes and unemployment opportunities. But what explains the drying up of the Euphrates River, and what roles do prophecies play? Of course, there are several science-friendly reasons why the Euphrates River is drying up, but other evidence implies that there may be more to the event. Undoubtedly, the region has been experiencing a prolonged drought exacerbated by climate change. Temperatures in northeast Syria have said to increase by 1 degree Celsius compared to 100 years ago, and the average rainfall has decreased by 11 millimeters per month per century.
Well, what do you think about this fate of the Euphrates River? Do you believe the water will stop drying up soon? Let us know in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the following video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.